forward on the visuals because this is what you're talking about is the last. And that is that once you've made your vows and you're in a kingdom marriage, like a Matthew 6 marriage, there's kingdom priorities. This is God's priority of how a marriage relationship would look like. First is God in the middle. And that's why before he's going to lead you to a marriage, he needs you to lead him to himself. Because he can't lead you to the kind of marriage he would have in mind if you're not under him first. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then your spouse. This is called concentric circles of concern. That's what this
and this can work with any relationships in your life. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have one of the circles, then you just skip over and make the next one your next priority.
That's right. So first the Lord, even over your spouse. Sometimes you got to have that in order to stay with your spouse. This person is driving me crazy, but I trust you. You brought us together, and so I'm going to work through this. There have been times when both of us have felt that way, and we're very glad that we didn't go with our gut feeling in the moment. My gut feelings are not usually right, to be honest with you. The emotions.
He's emotional. He's up and down a lot.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I'm more like...
So a lot of times guys will like to say that ladies are too emotional and that men are very logical. And there may be a subtle difference, but by and large, men and women generally make their decisions at least 85% emotional most of the time.
What does that say in the top of that white circle? What does it say? Love
children. Love your children.
Love your children.
Yeah. So that's the case. Our emotions are valuable, but they're not good things to make important decisions on. There's no way to gauge if they're right
God
and
gave
wrong.
us our emotions, and they're beautiful and they're wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But he also tells us that we need to take captive our thoughts and
right.
Not be tossed about with every wind and wave.
That's right. And part of giving yourself to the Lord is learning to trust him with your emotions and talk to him about it. So this is what I'm feeling. What would you have me do? I'm going to trust you and do what you asked me to do today, regardless of how I'm feeling. Yes. And then once you're in a marriage, then more so. So God in the middle, then your spouse, then your children. That's your next circle. And then your extended family and friends. What Claire said is powerful. Sometimes extended family can put a lot of pressure on a marriage. Especially parents can put a lot of pressure if they don't feel like the other person is measuring up to what they want for their son or daughter. They can become an antagonist.
As a parent, it can be hard to let go of your children and not have the same role that you had in their lives.
Yeah, and sometimes parents can get in arguments over whose house you're going to come to and all that kind of stuff, and it can be really painful. That's why it's important to put them out here. Say, we have to decide together what we're going to do first. That includes traditions too, like where you go for Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that. You have to make your own.
I just think about the commercial. It's the car commercial where they're in the car. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
What are we not going to tell grandma?
Yeah.
Mom doesn't have a headache every Sunday.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
And then friends. I've had quite a few people. I told this story last, and this is not everybody's story, but I know that when I got married, one by one, most of my friends who were in high school and college, they got married. I'm the only person today still married to the person I married then. And a lot of them were influenced out of their marriage by their friends early on. Whereas I made a choice. I put Claire number one, and I told my friends that she was number one. I was going to work around our marriage, and that's how it was going to be. And I did lose some friends over that, and I could have balanced it a little bit better, but the bottom line is I had to prioritize and I chose to do that. It wasn't that, I wanted to do it, because that's the right priority. Whereas others, they didn't, and they'd even have friends say, I think you deserve better than this and stuff, and they'd get divorced within a year or two, because their friends were still a bigger influence to them, I guess, than their husband or wife. And that happens.
It's also maturity.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I know, when you're young, you don't know any of this, right?
No, you don't.
And you're struggling, right? And you don't have support of the family or whatever, and then you just start to just give up. It's just too easy to give up when you're young and you don't have that maturity level to understand what's going on and how to fix it.
That's
it's
right.
It's easier to walk away,
Definitely.
I think, than trying to make it work.
It's definitely easier to do that.
It's easier short term, I think.
It's
but
short
I think
term.
the long term fallout is people shortchange the long term fallout of
Yes.
of
They
not
can't
sticking
see
with
it.
it
They
because
can't
yeah,
see
there's
it.
not
They can't
they don't
see
have that
it.
perspective.
Yeah,
I
they
talk to
can't see that
our
vision.
kids a lot about perspective. When you're younger, you just don't have the perspective of when you're older. So sometimes you need to listen to the wisdom of those who are older and do have a little bit more perspective to help you understand exactly where you're at, because you can't see where you're at
Yeah, that's right.
or where
No,
you're
you
going.
can't see
yes.
where you're going. That's
Where it's
right.
leading to.
And that's why it was a challenge too. I said earlier, we didn't know any of that when we got married. I didn't know about the circles thing, at least officially, until I was a marriage pastor. And you start getting all these tools, and you thought, gosh, I would have liked to have that when I was young and married. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. We had gone to a workshop. I hope it's a funny story. It's funny now. We went to a workshop. We'd been married 15 years. We had a good marriage. I had already been a youth pastor and leading in my business and all that.
We struggled through those
And we
first
struggled
years,
through those first years.
You're
And we're
good.
going to end with a story on that. But when I was a youth pastor, one thing I noticed was the kids that had the hardest time. I mean, everybody has struggles. We all do when we're teenagers, figuring everything out.
It's hard to be a teenager.
It's hard. It's great and it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, there's wonderful stuff, but there's challenges too. So the ones who really had a hard time, though, their parents did not have good relationships with each other. And I thought then, if only we had some tools we knew to really start investing into their parents when they were younger, we wouldn't be trying to sort of replace their parents now. We'd be ministering with them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And some of the struggles we had in our early years
Yeah.
of relationship, it was not that I was perfect at all, because I was not and am not. But it was harder because he had never seen the picture of a healthy marriage relationship
Right.
in his
No, I
family,
haven't.
which I had been gifted with that with my abnormally normal
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah, and that's how we're going to end, is the story, the ultimate
Yeah.
story on that. But yeah, that's where we are. So fast forward a few years later, and we had a chance to go to this workshop on marriage development, and we'd been to a million marriage workshops and everything. Usually it's just do this, don't do that. Well, this was this experiential workshop. And what they did is they took you through things like those concentric circles and had you start thinking about your decisions and stuff and working through things. And I was very excited because, man, yeah, this is what we could have had for our parents. So I'm really excited. And we signed up to learn the whole curriculum. I did, because I wanted to be able to help people. So we got hooked up with a mentor couple and everything. And remember, we'd been married 15 years at this point. We had a good marriage. One day in, and we get in a fight over the first homework assignment. And I realized, oh, this is for us too. We need this still. We need these tools ourselves.
For real.
But that's good news, because no, you didn't know it all, but we did know to give it to God first. And
that was the most important thing.
because he led us to the other stuff when we needed it. That's really
We
what
didn't
it
know
came
the
down
names for it. We didn't have the pictures and the
No.
graphics for it, but
No.
God led us to the truths
Yeah.
that are ultimate, because we prioritized our relationship
That's right.
with Him, and we kept ourselves involved with other believers
Right.
who could help guide us in
That's
our
right.
relationships. And I think that that's critical no matter where you are relationship wise, is to keep yourself grounded in His Word, continue to pray, and then to keep yourself in community with other believers.
That's right.